Hi, welcome to Meet Yogi. This is Suzanne Doolin, and I'm here with my guest, Robert Gardner. Robert is a yogi. He is a Thai yoga massage therapist, and he's a massage therapist. It's such an interesting mix of things. And today we're going to be talking about lots of different things related to yoga and touch, and also related to regulation, the Yoga Alliance. I think we're going to touch on that maybe today. And we're also going to talk a little bit at the start about just being on the camera, because I was telling Robert that part of the reason that I do this event is for people in my Facebook group to get a chance to be on camera. And Robert does a lot of work on camera. And can you talk a little bit about what you do on social media, Robert? Welcome, by the way.
Oh, hello, everybody. So when you say what I do on social media, you mean like being comfortable on camera and
talking?
Well,
tell me just a little bit about what your social media accounts are, and where are you active in social media right now?
So social media as a whole is continuously growing and evolving. Right now, primarily, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube. Those are the 5 channels that I use fairly consistently. I also have like G+ accounts, but I don't find those to be extremely active. People aren't using those excessively in my experience.
You know, people who do social media say like you really need to have those just to kind of get into the Google search engine and stuff.
Yeah. I cross-post a lot of the same information to G+, but it doesn't seem to be a very active forum. And I'm not sure why Google has not pushed that, but it just hasn't really grown.
It's weird because it's sort of a good concept, and then anyway, who knows why. But anyway, you are doing lots of sort of visual media.
Tons of video. YouTube seems to be this foundational account. And YouTube gets a lot of search engine optimization. I don't worry about keywords.
You can find a search, like if somebody searched for Thai massage,
yeah,
then they would hit your YouTube account. And YouTube is
potentially
like the largest search engine.
Yeah. So, I mean, YouTube is owned by Google. So the thing is, when I'm making YouTube videos, people are more likely to find me. But there's this big cross-pollination because I'm taking that YouTube video, posting it to all my social media channels. I'm posting it on my blog, so there's more text. And long-term, you can't really game the system. You just have to put out good content and connect with people. And that's what I was telling you earlier. I really commend you for doing these with the SADHANA community, because long-term, you're going to win. You're allowing people to engage. And when you're doing this interview with me, it allows me to take this interview, put a link in my email list of 9,000 people who could potentially, you could get 100 followers or whatever. And long-term is just doing that again and again and again. When it comes to video in particular, the main thing that I see is I've been working with it for so long now that it doesn't concern me to take this out and shoot a quick video. Facebook Live, spontaneous.
You're very natural and comfortable on camera. What was it like for you when you first started out?
If you want to see, what it's like, I purposefully don't go and delete old YouTube videos. If you go to my YouTube channel and pull up the first video I made, it was on a flip cam, which is not nearly as nice as my phone. And I basically I talked about being a technophobe. I talked about being afraid of the technology, but I could see that things were growing and I needed to, start to go this direction, because what I see in my industry, and it may be similar in the yoga community, I'm not sure, is people are afraid to put themselves out there. And at the same time, it's like, if you can't allow your message to get out, how do you market?
Yeah, I love actually going. It's kind of like when I find people whose YouTube accounts I really like, I love to go back to their early ones, because a lot of the, if you find somebody and they've got a lot of, like they're getting a lot of eyeballs, then a lot of times at that point they've got their, fancy camera and they do their makeup. But if you go back to their early ones, it's like they have their phone out, and they were, they're just all kind of rocky, and it's kind of sweet though too. There's another quality to those earlier videos, where they're not as polished and stuff, and I like to see those because it shows me that, sure, one day I'd love to, be at a point where things are a little more studio quality, but then there's also this sweetness about what people do early on. I think that everybody kind of has the fantasy of having that, millions of people following them, and it's like
everybody will work on production value.
For people who really care about what you do too.
Yeah. The whole thing is, it's like, just like if I, send a text to my wife and I'm connecting with her, using this is what your followers want. Increasingly what I see is people are confused between Hollywood, high production value, perfection, and this. And the thing is, this at this point to me is almost more powerful. People actually connect with a certain degree of authenticity.
That's a big buzzword. I'm hearing.
So like Instagram. Are you using Instagram much at all?
Authenticity a little bit, because I heard it from someone else this week. Oh, you're so authentic. But the fact is, honestly, I'm comfortable now on camera because I've been practicing it, and I think that people think authentic, and then when they get on camera, it's like, their personality really doesn't come through. And hey, Andrea, thank you for joining us. We're going to have you let us know any questions that you have. We are recording, and we will be posting this on YouTube. So if you have any concerns about that, put that in the chat, and I'll make sure that I edit out your name. So welcome. So we had Andrea join us. Thank you. Got it. Okay. Andrea, we were just talking about being on camera and everything. Do you have any questions for Robert? Anything that you're interested in talking about today? And also, I'd love to know how you found out about the event today, too. I don't think you're a member of SADHANA, so you must be one of Robert's people. So she hasn't said anything back yet, so we'll put you back on. Oh, wait, I do lots on camera. I was a TV reporter, interested in his adjustments. Joined your Facebook. I'm new to your group. Oh, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm so excited, and thank you for chatting. We'll keep the chat window open. It looks like you're welcome to just talk on, and it sounds like you're totally comfortable on camera. You're welcome to turn your camera on and just be a part of this conversation. You don't have to stay out of the conversation until later. It's just a chance for us to all get to know each other. So feel free to do that, or if you're in a situation where you need to chat, just let us know. So thank you, and thanks for joining Sadhana.
So what I was asking about was Instagram. Have you used like video messaging through Instagram at all?
I haven't, and I haven't done Instagram, and I haven't done the that new Instagram-y thing that's on Facebook. I've done it a couple of times. I played it with it a little bit. The story.
The capacity to send a quick video message, it really allows a deeper depth of connection. And because we're in teaching yoga and massage, they're very personal skills. They're intimate in a way. It can involve touch. We're interacting with students and clients. So I'm trying to get massage therapists, for instance, to use Instagram and say, listen, if you came to my home and had a session with me, the next day I can follow up with you on Instagram via video and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I appreciated the session yesterday. Thank you so much for, supporting me. I want you to remember to use that tennis ball to work on your arm that you're having problems with. And the thing is, a lot of massage therapists, they're using email to do that because email is comfortable now.
Right.
Nobody's having any issues with email.
Email is the lowest common denominator. Even your mom can use email.
Yeah. But with video, the technology is growing and blossoming, and people don't really want, I don't think they're looking for Hollywood. They actually respond very, very well to that sort of authenticity that comes from this off the cuff, quick Instagram or Snapchat behind the scenes video production. Snapchat, as much as like a year ago, Snapchat was almost like, it very much felt like my private channel behind the scenes, because you could get stuff that I couldn't put on other platforms because the setup for it through this phone was just so dynamic and so different than other social media platforms.
Yeah, I'm going to have to play with it because you've talked about it before and it sounds really fun. And I keep on playing with Twitter. Like I keep on thinking one of these days I'm going to understand how Twitter works.
Oh, well, Twitter set a new standard when I think it came on the scene. I don't know what's going to happen with Twitter long term.
It seems like there's something about it that really intrigues me, but I keep on, I think I have it set up wrong. But anyway, I feel like we're sort of steering it in a real businessy direction. And I really just wanted to talk about like finding that persona on camera, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, like we're comfortable talking on camera, and they think I'll put my camera on and I'll be just like that. And they don't realize that there's a little ramp up period where you're sort of like, well, do I like to have my hair up when I'm on camera, or there's people I see who, they'll get on camera sort of like, oh, I just got out of the shower and my hair's not washed yet. And, they're like super, super casual, and they actually figured it out, like, oh, this is what people respond to. This is how I feel comfortable being on camera. I've seen other people who, they like in the entrepreneurship world, they, kind of get on with their high heels and their Versace bag and in front of their Ferrari, and they're all polished up.
I mean, it's just, yeah, to me, there's no right or wrong way. It's just increasing connection.
But it takes a little learning. It's not just
practice. It's practice. The thing is, I think much like doing yoga or massage, it's not that those things are really difficult. It's that those things take time and practice.
And Andrea, I'm sure can also talk about that. Be interested to hear, as somebody who works on TV, what her take is on, like what it takes to get on camera. I just know that I used to work behind the camera when I was in college. My main extracurricular was to actually work in television production. I can actually build a whole television set. And then you do that like on a weekly basis. I produced a television show in college. And so part of the reason why I know how to be on camera is that when you're behind camera, you see like the natural thing that happens when people get on camera is they're sort of like deer in the headlights. And they get on, they're very, very still. And I can tell you that is the most boring thing to watch. And that's what happens when people aren't comfortable. And then you start to realize like, oh, you need to move, you need to be more expressive on camera than you are normally. And it takes a little while to get that comfortable doing that in a way that doesn't feel really strange.
Yeah. There's a thing with, uploading a YouTube video, for instance, where you make the video and you're able over time to get feedback.
Andrea's asked a question. She wants to know what kind of services you're offering on camera versus in person.
So one of the things I've dealt with is Andrea, right?
Yeah. Is it Andrea or Andrea?
My wife's name is Andrea, so I always get confused. I always want to say it that way.
I know what you mean because I have friends who are Andrea. She says,
okay.
Fine.
So what's happening for me is primarily at this point, I offer in-person bodywork services that I call a reboot. They're like these 3-hour sessions. And I have one yoga class a week where I have like three regular yoga students that I've had for years. I get occasional like new students. In addition, I teach classes for massage therapists in and around Texas, and then also in other cities and states. Increasingly, what's happening for me is I'm selling retail, meaning workbooks and DVDs I made for my education, that I'm selling those to massage therapists. And more of my business is going online, and I'm still trying to figure out online live webinar classes. We're this close to that. And then a lot of my business is going online because I realized that I can't teach everything distance, but I can teach a lot of what I do on video.
You know,
And
I
I'm
actually
trying
think
to embrace that.
that's a really interesting conversation about teaching things like yoga, body work through distance, because I've actually been designing a course for teacher training that's going to start in September. And I ran into that. As I was designing it, I got to this sort of stumbling block. I started getting on video, you know, with my friends and saying, you know, here's kind of what I'm putting together. And one of my good friends who was trained at British Wheel of Yoga said, are you serious that you want to certify someone to teach in your name, you know, with them never having taken an asana class with you, never having practiced yoga with you? And I was like, I realized at that point, I stepped back and I said, this is what I'm comfortable doing. And what I decided was I would not give people a certificate to teach in my name unless they did an additional module that would actually be in person with me.
Here's how I think it works. And I'm
stuff
still figuring this out. I'm having that same challenge. Long term, what you want to do is you want to get 10,000 people in that online training. And then out of that 10,000 people, you're going to have 100 people who are so amazed at what they learned in that they're going to come study in person. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I felt like there would be certain people who were like, they're, you know, like they would be so intrigued by what they're doing, you know, I was doing, that they would want to do it with me. But actually the program is to actually help people to sort of discover their own path. So it wasn't, there was a lot I could do that isn't about me per se. But I did decide, like, if I wanted to say somebody was teaching yoga and they were, you know, my student, that they did need to actually at least come and see me teach in person, you know, and, you know, beyond just that learning from me hands-on.
I get people who contact me. Somebody the other day was contacting me from Britain, and they said, when are you going to come teach here? And I basically said, listen, give me 12 students and I'll get my passport and we'll set it up for 6 months from now. I can do that. The thing is, long-term, what I'm seeing is I'm still getting interest locally from people in person for classes, clients, you know, retail sales even. But the more things grow online, people are asking me in South Dakota and Washington State and Delaware. And it allows me to reach out to all of those people and then draw those 100 students who will travel to me.
So let's just be clear, what you're doing is you are running ads, and then you on Facebook, and you have webinars that you're doing. You are also been posting videos up to YouTube and your other social media channels. And those are mainly instructional videos?
Primarily, yes. So I cut my teeth on Thai massage. My materials right now are still called Thai massage. So it's an intro to Thai massage, a little package of workbooks and videos, then some table-based stuff for massage therapists that's on a massage table. And then I just kept producing curriculum, and all of a sudden I had the stuff that I could sell because I had retail now. I had workbooks and DVDs. And then we started using ads on Facebook to let people know about my little free webinar where I talk about what I'm doing. And massage therapists around the country and around the world started buying materials. So now what I'm looking at is actually going online. And instead of you and I just talking, I actually have a mat set up in the back, and I'm working on someone on camera. They're recording me, and I'm just demonstrating technique and teaching online to whatever capacity I can.
What have you found works well, you know, as far as teaching touch techniques on camera? And then what have you found that you're struggling to share?
I think for me, the biggest challenge that I see is something like massage or yoga, martial arts, dance. They're embodied arts. And I wrote workbooks and materials because you wanted to get people started and give them something. But it's a little bit like reading a book on salsa dance.
You're right.
Yeah.
I I lived in New Orleans. I went to college in New Orleans. And because I went to college in New Orleans, therefore, I saw lots and lots of live music performance. Seeing live music performance, made me appreciate that there's a life in a live performance that just isn't there in a recording. Even the best albums that come out of New Orleans are really good recordings of live performances because they capture that mood. But there's nothing like being in an audience where a great performer is interacting. And I think that's the problem with the camera is, there's just not like here, we have Andrea on, she's here, she's sort of participating, but not in the way that if she were right in front of us, where we could watch, is she getting it? Is she responding? And then tailor it, even without her, telling us. Yeah. Seeing, is the light coming on in her eyes or not?
The difference is, I got to a point where initially I didn't want to teach online at all. I had no interest. I didn't think you could teach what I was doing online. And I was such a stickler where it's got to be perfect. And I said, wait a second, you can't teach 100% online. You can't. It's impossible, especially with massage, with physical contact.
Right.
You can feel pressure.
I understand how you can't.
But here's the thing. I go, wait a second. Could I teach 75% of it? Then make the 75%, put it on YouTube, put it on Teachable, put it on whatever platform that allows you to monetize it and allow people to get started where they are. And then what you do is you wind up drawing in the people who can come in for the full presentation in person.
So now you said you've had people who are starting to reach out and saying, please come to South Dakota, please come to England. Are you wanting to travel? Is that where you're wanting to go? That's personally what I dream of doing, is traveling around.
I do like the idea. I don't know how far that goes. Meaning I don't know how much of a travel schedule I could keep. Right now, it's mainly, my wife and I had a conversation before this started where we have house repairs and she's trying to help me with a home equity loan. And, we're just trying to make enough profit to take care of stuff so that I can keep building my business. I'm willing to travel wherever. And I really feel more optimistic than I ever have in 2017 because the idea of me going to Nepal in 2 years and leading a training is not that far off. The world is sort of opening up in a completely new way, and I'm really trying to take advantage of that. We sell materials through a Facebook ad, and primarily that's like massage therapists in the US. And then I went, wait a second, like my materials are in English, so it's a little bit harder to go to Bolivia because, people speak Spanish there and I don't. But it's like people in Australia speak English.
No, actually,
is there a need for what I do in Australia? And then you're like, man, I could go to Australia for a month as a business expense and lead trainings.
You're thinking way too small, because I work with a company that's a worldwide company, and we actually, it's a huge issue for us because we used to translate all of our training into, my training used to get translated into 10 languages. And what we've stopped doing is spending any money on it, because what we found when we would go into our statistics is that almost everyone took it in English. Now, we are in the tech world, and the tech world it's sort of de rigueur to know English. But many, many people in many countries speak English well enough to follow a video. They may need to pause and slow it down a little bit to understand it.
They're more secondary English speakers.
I'm recording and I'm on camera and you're off camera. So if you want to come and be here, come and be here. My daughter's here. Okay. I don't think she realized that we were doing a recorded event. What we found was the only place where people were actually taking in another language was the Spanish-speaking countries.
Yeah.
But in Asia, all throughout Asia, all throughout Europe, pretty much everybody learns English, and it's become standard. I'm very interested in reaching India because I have a lot of people in India who have, who are interested in me.
And for me, one, it's the capacity to travel in itself is transformative and fun. It's just a matter of, how do I reach out to people and continue to educate? Because if I can't go in person, I can set up the webcam just like you and I are and communicate with whoever is interested wherever they are. And increasingly, I just try to connect with people and then go where the money is. I continue to ramp up what I'm doing and build it in a way that feels authentic and feels heart-centered to me. But how do we deal with the house repairs? We got to make money.
Well, I'm curious because, massage, like yoga, is kind of competitive, and you're very much in the space of where I think people in sadhana are, is either they're already, or they want to be there, which is they're very niche. And, one of the problems that I've heard from people is nobody gave me permission to be an expert because, they didn't want to follow. They didn't want to be Iyengar Yogi level 5 or whatever. I don't know how those levels work, but, master level teacher in Iyengar yoga. They didn't want to follow in a system and become recognized through that because their path was something unique. Your path is very unique. You're a yoga teacher. You're a massage therapist, and you're a Thai massage therapist. And we've talked about the fact that sort of makes you in a no man's land. And
I forget what I know. And it's really interesting, like I said before we came on, interacting with your community, because this is the first real outreach I've had to the yoga community. I forget the skills that I have to be able to educate the yoga community.
Right. And so the thing is that what made you sort of decide I can turn the camera on and present myself as an expert? Because I think a lot of people are sort of waiting for somebody to sort of go
give them permission.
Grasshopper.
to give them permission. They want a certification, they want a degree, they want a certificate, they want somebody to tell them, this, now you can go teach.
Did you want that? Was there a period in your life where you were waiting for that permission?
Well, I think part of it comes out of my own experience, and here's where the rubber meets the road. When I was 22, I was in a car accident. I had a very bad whiplash from a drunk driver. I was in Baton Rouge. We were driving back from New Orleans. When I had that accident, I'd never had any significant physical issues in my life. So at 22 years old, my health just completely fell apart. Then it was I didn't know anything about how to take care of myself, or I was kind of thrust into the legal system and the medical system. And the doctors essentially said, listen, there's nothing wrong with you. We've run x-rays, you're fine. And I'm like, I'm in pain. And they're like, well, I'm like, can I have pain medication? And they're like, no, you'll get addicted to it. So it was
God, they did not give you pain.
Yeah, it was this weird thing where you just get stuck. And then what happened was I dropped out of college because I couldn't go to school. I was sick. I wound up working at a health food store, and a young lady who was in massage school gave me a massage. And for the first time, I could tell that my muscles felt slack because I had just been, tight and tense to a point where it was causing some sort of physical pain. From there, all it was I kept looking at massage. I went to massage school after that one session. I would work with the educators and the other students in class, working out my own healing process. A year after massage school, I had sort of steeped myself in the massage community, and then I was like, there's got to be more. It's I'm not where I need to be. I'm only 60% of the way. I know there's stuff over here. How do I access this? A yoga class was $10, and that's why I took it. I took 3 yoga classes in a row from one teacher in a little place in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it completely blew my mind, and it opened up this other percentage.
I personally, because I've done a lot of different healing work, and to me, there is nothing as powerful as yoga for self-healing. It is, I've done other things now. It's true that I came in through yoga because I've talked about this, and if you go to my live call number 8, I talk about how I got into yoga, and that I was sort of had this transformative experience when I was very young, and then I took yoga, and I was yoga's my thing. So I may be kind of just because the way I came in and I was so sort of married to yoga early on, but I've tried a lot of stuff and it just doesn't work the way, like I can get a massage and I feel good immediately after a massage. And I do a lot of massage to help me control like mental health issues and stuff like that. It's amazing when I'm so low that I can't do things for myself. But to me, with yoga, the transformation is more, it's more long lasting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that? Because you do massage.
So the thing is, these two worlds, if you think about massage and yoga, these worlds for me broke down. And what I mean is I pushed the edges of these so far that intellectually, philosophically, and as far as regulation, it was like, wait a second. These people are acting like these are two separate things. They're not. They're not. You're working on a human. And you have an active way and a passive way. And if you meld both of those together, I think you have a more complete and more functional art that people can use. That's really what I'm teaching.
So what you do is basically like a very hands-on yoga teaching when you are.
So I'll tell you right now, if you came and got a session with me, we'd have a brief conversation and I'd find out, hey, Suzanne, are you having like pain somewhere? I'd take a look at your posture just in passing. And I'd go, hey, well, we're going to work on that. To an outsider, I think what you would probably do is if you had a session with me, you were like, oh my. I think, one, you'd be blown away. And two, you're like, it was like you were doing yoga to me. And it's like, yes, my own yoga practice infuses the body work that I'm doing to you. Because as I'm pressing on you, as I'm working on you to try to release some sort of physical restriction, let's say with your shoulder, it's bothering you. As I'm releasing that, I'm breathing and I'm positioning myself where I'm like, how do I release my own tension? Yeah. The thing is, those things broke down, and increasingly, to go back to your previous question about how did I become the authority? How did I feel like enough of an expert? And here's what really happened. I got to a point where I was in Central Texas. There was no Thai massage. Thai massage did not exist. I could not get a job doing it. And unless I created my own private practice, I couldn't do the work that I loved. And it was going to get stifled and drop off, and I would never be able to continue my growth.
Struggling? Was that, like financially, was it like?
Financially, yes. Okay. And then it was like, you were just a massage therapist. And the thing is, if you talk about massage or yoga in Austin, Texas, you can talk to people and they'll say, you can't sling a dead cat without hitting a yoga teacher in Austin. You can't sling a dead cat without hitting a massage therapist. So you get sort of pigeonholed. That's how we talk. You get kind of pigeonholed, and it was like I was aspiring to something more. And finally what happened was I decided, listen, you only need to know, like I was teaching yoga here in Texas. It's like you only need to know a little bit more than the students to be able to teach.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I realize is that, I always kind of had, for myself, I'm a teacher's teacher, and that I always sort of envision myself traveling, doing workshops, and, being a resource for teachers. And part of that is that I come out of a teaching family. Everybody in my family is a teacher of some sort or another. And so I think that I won't say intuitively, but, I'm just so steeped in a teaching culture that that's a whole reference for me that most people don't have. My mother's a teacher, my brother is a teacher, my sister's a teacher, my dad's a teacher, my aunts are teachers, all at different levels. And, I just come out of a teaching world. And so I think a lot about things like that. But the thing is that I realized, like, I thought like I had to work my way up to that level of like, oh, to teach teachers, you would have to be like, like you would already have to have been teaching for so many years and have this big following. And then people would somehow naturally want me to teach them. And I kind of realized, like, that's not actually how it works. Like, you have your thing that you want to do, and you just kind of have to go out there and say, like, this is my thing. Like, I studied, I know my stuff now, and I'm going to go and start finding people who want to learn it.
You can only teach what you know, and you can only teach from your own experience. And all I do is try to meet students where they're at and try to answer their questions. And I don't have any issues with clients, students, whoever asking me a question and my going, I don't know. Let me go do some more research and see if I can find out. What I made a commitment to was continued growth.
So what happened? What did you do at that moment where you were sort of like, okay, nobody's going to give me permission, and I don't want to be stuck just as a massage therapist? What did you do? I know that now you're starting to, you're having success. But,
at some point, people's little boxes. I got to a point where you had a yoga box and you had a massage box. And then the two were not meeting. And I'm like, listen, when I dealt with your community in this last interview, I realized, I'm like, there is an entire world of yoga teachers around the world who could benefit from what I'm doing.
I would love for you.
And the thing is, it's like, there's regulatory hurdles and weirdness, which we could talk about, that relate to the Yoga Alliance. But the whole thing
what I want to do is maybe go for like 10 more minutes. That kind of puts us at a 40-minute recording, which I think is reasonable for people to consume.
Yeah.
And I want to get to that issue of the Yoga Alliance. And we had talked about regulation in general being something. So I want to know about your relationship with this, because massage has a better body for regulation, I think. And I think part of the reason is that massage had a stronger reason to need regulation, which is that there was a huge issue where massage therapists were, and prostitution.
Yes.
There was no way to divide yourself off from the prostitutes.
Yeah.
But, like in the 70s, if somebody was going to a massage parlor, they were going to a prostitute. And nowadays you can have that LMBT after your name, and that says to someone, although I have heard of prostitutes who have gone in.
It's good in theory.
But at the very least, like, somebody had to invest a lot of money to put those letters after their name, and it shows,
a certain level of education, a certain level of regulation.
And and if you're advertising in the Spirituality Now, local alternative health paper, likely you're not advertising your prostitution services. And so it sort of created a safe way for people to practice massage. I don't know that it's completely fixed, and it seems like it's sort of falling back.
Debates, being in the inside of the industry, huge debates. And I can tell you that my opinions are not very favorable and not looked upon very kindly by a lot of people in the massage industry. But it's because I'm really trying to manifest something new that comes out of massage and yoga.
And where are you finding, do you feel restricted by massage or Yoga Alliance?
Yoga I don't feel restricted on at all, because there's no licensure. There's no licensure, so yoga feels free in a way. It's culturally sort of combined. So like when you say yoga in the West, it's hatha, it's the physical yoga, right? So there's a cultural sort of box. But the thing is, massage has actual regulation. And it just drives me absolutely bonkers. I sat with another educator the other day, and it's like, in most states, in the United States, because massage is regulated state to state, massage is the manipulation of soft tissue. That's the definition. And then I bring it further, because we can say, okay, do yoga teachers manipulate soft tissue?
Yeah, a lot of times.
And the thing is, the massage industry just turns the other eye. And I'm like, listen, there's no clarity to your law. And here's the thing, to bring it even further, do cuddle therapists manipulate soft tissue? And I love cuddle therapy because it's like, what's less safe?
Right.
It's like, you're not going to hurt anybody cuddling unless they have an emotional response.
Seriously, the safest.
But the thing is, I'm like, guys, you need a license to cuddle people for money now.
You seriously?
Well, if you look at the law, it's manipulation of soft tissue. If I have to pay in Texas alone, I'm a massage therapist, an instructor, and a CE provider. If I go to another state, I sometimes have to get other licenses to continue teaching in those states. And I have to maintain all of these fees where somebody who does cuddle therapy has no law. Yoga teachers, no law. They can travel state to state, they can teach, they can do whatever, no law.
So I'm curious if how you feel about the Yoga Alliance, because I see a lot of anger expressed toward the Yoga Alliance, and what I see is that they're wanting permission to do their thing, and they're looking for Yoga Alliance to, first of all, give them this cred that says you really achieved something, and then their training standards are actually so, off the mark from actual learning standards that people realize like that, I did that. I spent all this money, I got this, and it doesn't really mean anything. And then they don't even, they're like, this didn't give me permission to become the thing I wanted to become. Mm-hmm. And my message is, don't wait for somebody to give it to you. The beautiful thing about the yoga world is you don't need it. Yeah. And and it's not, even when you get to the highest levels of distinction in the Yoga Alliance, it doesn't give you, that doesn't give it to you either. That doesn't give you anything special. And so instead of being mad at the Yoga Alliance, just go. Just go.
And the thing is, the Yoga Alliance is, at least, it's an option. It's not mandatory. With massage therapy, it's mandatory. And the thing is, it causes a lot of weird issues. And that's why, for me, because I'm trying to innovate and do something new where you're fusing these things, it's like, for instance, yoga teachers will start doing Thai yoga. Because it's not massage anymore, right? Not if you just cut the word massage off. If you take Thai yoga massage and cut off the word massage, it's legal, right? But the thing is, there's no enforcement on an individual basis. And when we talk about Texas, I need people to understand Texas is the size of Germany. To my knowledge, currently in Texas, there is one inspector for the entire state of Texas. There's no enforcement. So even though the laws are on the books, they're sort of arbitrarily enforced.
I've talked with us because here where I'm at in Long Island, one of the big industries, and there was a big article, it's really a fascinating article that was up in the New York Times, I think it was last summer, about the nail industry. And I'm showing my beautiful nails because my nail tech Maria is one of these people who came over from China. And so we have all these immigrants that come over, and then there's a whole system where they illegally teach each other how to do nails. And then it's actually quite a clever system, kind of an apprentice system that they have in place. And then they come out and it's kind of crazy because the ones here in Long Island, they actually drive like an hour out from the city every day to do this, but it's considered more Tony to be on Long Island than it is to be, say, in Queens. Mm-hmm. So the ones who work out here, they prefer to do this long drive, come out here. But the thing about it is that they give massages. And I've heard massage therapists say, they basically have as much license as like a guy at a bar who's trying to get laid. Mm-hmm. But if you go into any nail studio, they'll come and give you massages, and they'll advertise, there's one down the street, they have a chair massage there, and they'll, however long you pay them for, they'll give you a massage.
Yeah. And it's the same issue with Asian establishments here in Texas. Massage therapists complain about it. And it's one of the reasons fundamentally, philosophically at least, I'm against massage regulation. Now, I might get some hate mail about that, but there are very specific reasons, and I try to be very intellectual about it. Like when I hear you talk about the Yoga Alliance, I don't hear a lot of anger and vitriol in your voice.
I don't personally, but I've seen other people.
Like you just lay out, listen, this is what it does. This is why I don't think it's a good idea. And that's what I'm trying to do in regards to massage regulation. It's not that I don't want the public to be protected. It's that I think they're using protection of the public as a way of creating a gatekeeper system. And whoever controls the gate makes all the money.
And that's actually, I actually appreciate that the Yoga Alliance fights against regulation. That's really where their money goes. And I think it's a great thing. I wish that they were more upfront about what they're doing, because they've sort of fooled their own people with their false facade that they regulate things. And people are angry when they realize, like, oh, this isn't a regulatory body of any sort. But what I've heard from people who are in industries that are regulated, as those people who are on the board, they're also massage therapists or yoga teachers, and they have successful businesses, and they're using their positions to, limit the competition.
Yes. That's how I see it. And again, I'm always open to debate and discussion about that, but that's how I see it. And when you talked about like people being able to apprentice, there are people that I deal with here in Austin who are in part of the acro yoga community. These 19 to 20-year-olds will come to Thai Massage Jam that I run, and they get so excited. And they're like, I want to do this for a living. And I go, okay, you need to go to massage school. And they're like, but I don't want to do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, I don't want to work on a table. And I'm like, well, I have no recourse, because you have to go through them to get your license. And then once you have your license, I have to unteach some of what they just taught you to get you ready to do what I'm doing.
Right.
And their stuff is mandated by law. That's the way it's structured.
What would happen to you if you just taught it to them? Like,
no, here's where it gets more interesting, because what I get a lot of is I get massage therapists who are frustrated that I speak out against regulation, and then they don't understand that it creates barriers of entry to me, so it's harder for me to teach. Like, I have to pay more in fees, and I have to struggle more, because like to go to another state to try to expand what I'm doing, it costs more. What happens is it's an interesting situation where I can legally teach anyone. It is illegal for you to perform the work unless you have a massage license.
So they could, as long as you inform them of that risk, it's not really, and there's only one guy in Texas.
Yeah, it's the thing. And increasingly what's happening is training is going online, and here's what's going to happen. I'm going to make a lot of money. Things are going to grow. I'm going to build a huge following. People who are not licensed are going to access all of this stuff and start doing it without a license. And then they're going to say, wait, you can't do that. And I'm like, no, actually, you need to get it together with your regulators and pass a law, because this is completely legal. It's
kind of like how Uber broke, the licensing on cabs in a way. Yeah, there's it seems like there's sort of cycles with regulation and stuff like that, where, people sort of, people want to protect people, and they see rules as being a way. I love being in New York. That same thing with the nail techs happened up here, where there are only like 6 people that license all of the nail salons in all of New York. And there's literally one in every corner. It's like total, they tried to make it, I think they put a little more money behind the regulation, but with them, at least there's some sanitation issues. So
sure. Yeah. And it's not like I'm against, for whatever reason, I think people have a hard time segmenting this philosophically and theoretically in their mind. When I talk about being against massage regulation, they think I'm an anarchist. Like I'm for no laws concerning anything. And I'm like, no, I just don't think in this specific area it's really doing anything or much of anything. That's all.
Here in New York, there's this tendency for people, they love to make rules and they love to make laws, and then they love to ignore the laws. So, it just happens all over the place. I've never lived in a place where there were so many laws and then nobody followed them. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like if I have a repair person out to my house, every single repair person, even if they're with a big company, has told me, if you pay in cash, you don't have to pay taxes. Everyone. Like literally, I've never heard that in any other place I've lived.
Yeah.
But here, there's all, I could go on and on and on about this in New York, but it's like people, they love to make rules thinking they will keep them safe. But then, you know, the thing about rules is somebody has to enforce them. And, you know, if you haven't put that regulation, that enforcement into place, those rules are really senseless. And, you know, things like massage, yoga, you know, there's just bigger fish to fry.
If I right now, because I'm rebranding, I'm not even calling what I do massage, and I'm not really calling it yoga. I call it reboot. So when you come see me, I give you a reboot session. So if I'm doing reboot, I'm not doing massage, right? So I can open a reboot studio, and I can hire people who don't have a massage license, and it's like, no, we're not doing massage, we're doing reboot sessions.
I was wondering what was up with the whole reboot.
But the thing is, I can't legally do that, and here's why. If I did it as a single practitioner, I could skirt around the law. If I hired 10 therapists and I did the marketing that I do now for a large facility, we'd be making so much money that the massage establishment would come in and shut it down. Because you'd be making too much money. It's like they don't, you know what I mean? It's like they'll let you do it as sort of a one-off, going to people's homes or something. But if you start to really make an inroads, massage therapists are going to get up in arms about it.
Right. Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's fascinating to hear the issues around it. I'm really hopeful that you'll start reaching out to yoga teachers, because, you know, I would really love to learn how to do adjustments like what you do, because I have really, for myself, I was originally trained in Iyengar. The way my original adjustments I was taught was sort of pushing people into place. What I found was that people naturally moved into my hands. And so I would be like pushing them away, and they'd be moving into my hands. It's like, no, I want you to go the other way, not into my hand, away from my hand. And so I started to, at that point, when I was teaching, I was starting to take Kripalu style yoga. Their adjustments are into the hand, like they'll place your hand on your chest and they'll say, move up into my hand. And I started doing my adjustments that way, although I was never trained, just because I was learning, you know, I was in classes and I saw how they were done. And that's how I started doing it all. I think what you're doing, it just looks so much more sophisticated, where there's more tools in the toolbox.
Iyengar is something I've only taken one official, to my knowledge, one official Iyengar class. And when I look at photos of Iyengar giving adjustments or using props, I really feel like he was synthesizing some of what I'm doing with Reboot without using that same terminology. I really feel like people thought the props were, you could be lazy. But it's like, no. Iyengar was using the prop to make you aware of this part of your arm, so that you brought awareness and sensitivity and muscular, contraction or relaxation. And he's stimulating nerves in this area to wake this up. And that is mainly a manifestation of what I see going on in my work. It just tends to be less yoga props and more I'm giving you a session and going, listen, your arm hurts because your tricep is having a problem. We're going to work on this, but this part of the muscle's fine. It's this section back towards the shoulder joint where it hits your teres, this right here. And I'm sinking in with the knee, and they're like, oh. And here's the thing. When I'm done, when you talked about permission earlier, when I'm done, the people are like, oh my God, I can't believe, oh my God, I had no idea my shoulder, it moves in a way it didn't before. It's very rapid. And the thing is,
that existed. They weren't aware of that.
And the thing is, it's not because their physical body cannot do it. It's because of their nervous system. Their nervous system, for whatever reason, I'm still trying to understand the science. I'm pushing. That's why I call it a reboot. I'm trying to push the industry forward in massage and say, let's reboot the massage industry. Let's look at what are the actual scientific reasons that physical restriction happens. And I think primarily it's because of the nervous system. There's something about their nervous system that told this muscle to shut down. And I'm going in and I'm trying to wake it up. I'm trying to reboot it.
So I think that what we should do is the next time that we talk, we should talk about what you're doing with Reboot and about that, because that sounds like super, super cool.
Yeah.
And I want to hear about it. And especially that whole issue, I have lots of I was a cognitive studies major. A lot of my thoughts come out of being a philosophy major, cognitive studies major, that whole sort of mind-body disconnect that comes out of Western philosophy. It's also an Eastern philosophy. And I think it's something sort of inherent to how brains work. And I'm really interested to hear about it from your point of view of body work and how you're getting into that, because
look at it this way. Let's say, because I was talking about the shoulder, if I put somebody in triangle and it's like I can tell they can't lift their arm because it's like restricted or whatever, I put the person down on my mat, do what I just talked about, work on that, and go, now do it again, do triangle. And they're like, they just can't believe that it's gone. I suspect, and I'm not an expert on this, I really revere Iyengar. I think that Iyengar was doing some of that same work physically with students. I think he was physically going in and, manually doing some of that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to talk with somebody actually, worked with them. Maybe we can find someone.
Yeah.
I'll fish around. I actually know who will know this, which is Joy Lanzarotti, who's in our group, and I'll ask her. She'll know someone. She's actually good friends with Manos Manuso, but I don't know if he'd be able to talk with us about that. But I'm sure she knows people in the Iyengar community. Yeah. Maybe we can find someone who can talk about specifically, because I've seen the pictures. This is what I think you're talking about, like people sort of lashed to pillars and all of those very supported work. I'm aware that he did that, but I have never personally experienced all those really like super supported adjustment things that he did.
Yeah. And the thing is, Iyengar, I revere him. I never met him, but the thing is, just reading books and looking at videos, I revere him is like the height. I really feel like the goals that he was working towards in yoga are really the same things that I'm working towards. It's just that I'm Scott-Irish and I live in Austin. Like, I have a different cultural background.
Here's the things about Iyengar that I've taken. First of all, that excellence in teaching that he emphasized, that's something that I also want to create, and he innovated it in his time, and I feel like that's something I'm really driven to try to push high teaching standards. I think he understood learning, how learning works, and in his system, whether or not he knew learning principles, he created a system that really gives people steps on the path, and that's what you need to create learning. And then also his innovation, because he did study for a little while with a great teacher, but then he went out and he started teaching, and he created something very new, very different. In fact, Krishnamacharya, he says, basically starved him in order to teach him. He was taught, as rigorous as he was and as, frankly, abusive as he was, Krishnamacharya was extremely abusive to Iyengar, and the things he did, relatively speaking, were much kinder. And then he did all that innovation with the props and stuff. That all came out of just his own personal experience.
That relentless, and I see it in him. And again, I'm not an expert on Iyengar or his yoga specifically, but that relentless pursuit of mastery, where it's like, I'm trying to help this student wake up, and all the other tools I have don't quite fit this person. I have to invent a new tool. And that process again and again and again, like, who did Iyengar eventually talk to? Who did he need authority from?
There's a wonderful, he came out and spoke in Washington, D.C. I saw him speak, and there was a film that is primarily with his daughter Gita Iyengar in it, but they have some wonderful old footage, and one of the photos that I loved of him is when he was just developing the use of blocks, and they show him doing a back bend over a bread box, and he was just like, well, this is just the right shape for a back, like a restorative reclined back bend. So his first back bender was a bread box.
Yeah, this fusion in my world with what I'm calling reboot. Massage therapists still look at it as primarily mat work, but like, it doesn't conform to the usual physical parameters that they're familiar with, like working on a massage table. You know, I'm a massage therapist. I don't work on a massage table. The only time I take out a table is to really just show students how to get started, to transition people towards the mat. And once I get them towards the mat, they're freed up to allow their practice to blossom in a completely different way, because physically, I have an industry full of boxers, and they have a jab and an uppercut. And they're like, my hands hurt. And I'm like, okay, swing at me. And they'll swing at me. I wrap around them like it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, put them in a joint lock, and it's done. Because essentially that's what I'm teaching. I'm teaching them how to use their legs, their knees, their feet to even deliver pressure. You know, like when I talked about this, I talked about using my knee. Massage therapists on the whole are not using their lower body.
Yeah, I've had massage therapists, you know, kind of do things where they'll put an elbow in or something, and that's like as crazy as they get.
And the thing is, this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. But the thing is, think about size between this and a knee and this and a foot. And the thing is, that's what fundamentally people in my industry, what I'm trying to educate them on, is they've been encultured into a completely different set of parameters. What I teach is completely legal, but I've completely transformed what they're thinking on massage is.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out, I mean, honestly, what you need to do, and we should talk about this, is creating a teaching standard for you.
Sure.
Because in order for you to succeed, you're going to need to have a path for people.
Yep.
Where they can get their little piece of paper that says
Yep.
they're a reboot person. Without that, I think you'll have a hard time really explaining.
And we're building to it. It's just having the students and going along with the training. The pieces are already together in my practice, and it continues to evolve. And the thing is, remember we talked about the teacher only has to be a little bit ahead of the students. What I find funny with the students is as soon as they start to catch up, I change things. And they're like, wait a second, what are you doing? And I'm like, evolving, letting it grow.
I'm going to wrap up the recording here. Stay on for a minute, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we will definitely do a session where we will just do a focus on reboot, because I'm very, very curious to hear about that. And it's sort of like emerged out of this conversation, and I didn't really realize all that you were doing with that. I saw the name. I didn't realize, I thought you were just trying to circumvent some of the regulations. I did not realize that you were really sort of synergizing.
So here's the thing. I'm primarily working with massage therapists. They have no idea about yoga, none, almost across the board. And the thing is, when I deal with you in the yoga community, I realize most of these guys have no idea what I'm doing over here in massage. So I've traversed both of these. I can teach both in a way. It's just that it doesn't fit the normal cultural boxes they're used to seeing massage and yoga sold in.
Yeah, let's take we'll pause the recording. You and I can talk a little bit about just, you know, what we can do with that. And then we will have a session where you just come on and talk about reboot. Let people know your website.
Oh, it's robertgardnerwellness.com. There's a free Thai massage workbook. You can probably put a link down here for it if you want. There's a free Thai massage workbook on that website, robertgardnerwellness.com, that just goes through the basics of Thai massage, which is what my practice started out of.
And we also have that on the SADHANA catalog website, SADHANA,
Oh, cool.
CATALOG. And if you download it there, I'll pass on the emails to Robert. So, okay, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to end the recording.